course. Okay, so let's see. Thanks for joining me tonight on this, what is today, Thursday? It feels like a chronic Thursday every day in quarantine. I don't know about you. It's like we're not quite there yet, but like we've put in a couple days worth of effort. Shout out to all the people who have become teachers and cookers at home. I'm excited to talk about and hopefully give you a little peace of mind tonight about what foods we can kind of fall back on during this time when going to the grocery store is a feat in of itself, when there's limited supplies, when there seems like there's no more, ideas have run out and we are just frankly over it when it comes to food. So I feel you. I'm here for you for any ideas, and that's kind of what we'll dive into tonight. So let's get started. Cool. So if you guys don't know me, I hope I've met most of you. I love working with the Trust and traveling around to all these places and meeting you guys. This was me when we were allowed to go to hairdressers. So 60-something days, we're trying to figure it out on our own. Much better time. My name is Amanda Rigby. I'm a registered dietitian. I own a private practice called Heal Thyself Nutrition. And basically I study genetics and gut health and how that correlates to the conditions, the symptoms that we complain about and deal with on a day-to-day basis to try to help people heal from the inside out. And food is my best friend. Tonight, we're going to talk about some immune supporting tips. I know there's been a plethora of Facebook posts, blog posts, a lot of in-your-face things regarding immune boosting ideas, maybe some specific foods, what to believe, what not to believe. So I hope we can kind of hone in tonight, go over the things that we know to be effective, simple. We'll talk about some effortless ideas for meal prep so that we don't have to feel like we are living in the kitchen all day, every day. Some ideas for you guys to take home from here, and you'll also get my resource list and my quarantine grocery list for you to literally print out, put on your fridge, and take with you for however long this continues. But also, these are things, I said this as soon as this all kind of started, I was like, these are the things that we should be doing year round. I'm kind of excited that health is such a big topic and getting kind of the attention that it maybe needed. So let's dive in. So we know this, whether we get sick or not is going to depend on the health of our immune system. We have these guys, the front lines, we have our white blood cells, our neutrophils, lymphocytes, all these big words. And what these guys get fueled by and how they function is relying on nutrient-dense whole foods. So when we think about a spectrum of health and disease, or a state of dis-ease, I call it, two ends of a spectrum. Those who are more on the healthy end are those that eat that whole nutrient-dense diet. They sleep well, they sleep through the night. They get, that 7 to 8 hours of deep REM sleep. They manage their stress well. It feels like all bets are off right now, but we are kind of, 60-something days in, so settling into a new normal of sorts. So really focusing on these 4 things and how we can manage our stress levels, our anxiety during this time is going to keep us more towards this end of the spectrum towards health. How we talk to ourselves, what we read, what we choose to open on Facebook, what news channels we're watching right now. This is all going to push us either way down this spectrum. And again, just you can imagine the opposite, putting ourselves more towards the state of dis-ease would be a diet that lacks nutrients. Our body, our immune system is nothing without the nutrients that, build it. So as simple as it may be to, at the beginning, it kind of felt like all bets were off and it was just like junk food waking up covered in Oreo dust. We kind of have to make the decision, control what we can, and recognize that our choices here, I'll show you this tonight, directly impact where we're going to end up on this spectrum. And of course, how well we are able to not only be susceptible to getting any sort of disease, COVID-19 and beyond, but also you know, recovering from it and kind of bouncing back and building a resilience up. So again, that person is not going to sleep as well, have a lot of excess adrenaline from stress, and their mind tends to get the best of them. So let's kind of see how we can focus on what we can and see what we can do about it. And in this time, it is such a humbling, vulnerable time that I had to kind of release expectations and big goals, I would say. You know, some people came in hot right at the beginning of quarantine, and they wanted to come out Betty Crocker, or having learned a new language, you know, losing a bunch of weight. This was the time that they were going to focus in on it. And all that is great, but I had to like kind of step away and take the approach of like, let's just do the best that we can given the circumstances. It's not necessarily a wide open time for, you know, freedom and the ability to have the privilege to be able to do some of these things. We're just all kind of taking it minute by minute when it still kind of is, you know, we don't know what's coming next or, you know, what our next plans are. So I kind of had to release a lot of expectations personally. But then when we think about the things that we do, what's left over, what can we control, our attitude, our mindset, the way we manage stress, address stress. Do we stuff it? Do we face it head on? You know, what are our go-tos? And then, of course, in this instance, tonight's discussion, we're going to talk about food, because there is going to be a lot of things that we do have some control say over that will benefit us and push us towards that healthier end of the spectrum. So here are some 5 tips of mine to staying healthy during quarantine and beyond. The first one, easier said than done, of course, but a big one. We don't really want to skip over this. I'm sure you've heard it, but refined sugars. So getting rid of the excess white sugar, of the things that are overly processed that just turn to sugar really quickly, the sugary drinks. This is going to suppress our immune system even hours after we've taken it in. So of course it'll take an initial hit once we eat it, but then it's going to kind of linger. And we don't necessarily, again, want to be in a immune compromised situation, especially right now. So we know that this is not going to be somebody that helps us in that instance. So we're looking at the white stuff, right? The, excuse me, the breads, the pastas. I think about breakfast a lot, and I see this with a lot of my patients right now, is that the easy breakfast in our standard American diet is, you know, throwing the waffles, the bagels in the toaster. The cereal is quick and easy. What else do we have for breakfast? The biscuits, like it's just very sugary, but also like just heavy carbs, and which turn into sugar really quickly. So I kind of have to play, and we'll talk about some options for little breakfast alternatives, but check yours out and see how much white is on your plate at breakfast time. How can we balance that out a little bit, just to not start the day out, you know, in a more compromised position. So number 2, on the same breath, we would say that we want to make sure we're eating enough protein, because when we're thinking about the immune system, protein is going to be critical for the immune system to function. We see a lot of the cases in the hospital, the COVID-19 cases of people being diagnosed with what's called malnutrition, and they have inadequate protein stores in their body because we just don't hit the amount that we're supposed to get each day. The goal, a general goal, is to aim for half of your body weight in grams of protein each day. So if you take your body weight, say it's 150 pounds, we're going to be looking to get at least 75 grams of protein each day. This is what's going to keep us full longer throughout the day. So the cravings that we're feeling when we're just stuck in the house and it feels like the kitchen is, you know, always within arm's reach. The candy jar, the Halloween, oh my gosh, the Easter candy is still there for us. This is what's going to help with the cravings, which is going to keep us full longer, satiated throughout the day to get to our next meal and not have to be feeling like we're looking sideways all the time. It's also going to balance our blood sugars. So on a deeper physiological level, that's the guys that really need to be taken care of, that push us towards either end of that health disease spectrum. So protein is going to be really critical here. My third tip is to color your plate. So look at all those colors there. Love it. When I see color, I think vitamins, right? And we know we're treating COVID-19 with excess vitamin C. We know that we are doing better if we had adequate vitamin D stores going into this pandemic. So we need to get these vitamins, and where we get them from is the color of our foods. So again, kind of stemming off number one with the white, over starchy, sugary things, we want the opposite of that. So we want lots of color. So when you look at your plate, can we get half of it colorful? Leafy greens, the crunchy guys, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, peppers, squashes, making soups, making stews. We're gonna overall goal be to get 3 servings of fruit in every day and 8 or more servings of vegetables. But don't be too freaked out. Like 8 seems like a big number, but really a serving of vegetable is a half of a cup. So you try to stick like some broccoli in a half a cup. It's gonna be like too little guys. So totally doable. I just say, you know, every time we eat, something colorful is on the plate, and that's a pretty good rule of thumb. It's going to keep you pretty good during this time and beyond. Number 4, we are going to utilize spices like garlic, onions, things that we use. I don't know if you're Italian like me, it's kind of the basis of all of our meals. Ginger, we're going to use turmeric, oregano, rosemary. Thyme, that spice has more vitamin C than an orange. So that's where we're going to get a lot of really healing nutrients as well. Add them to our dishes, you know, as often as possible. I try to keep them in eye view so that I'm always remembering, oh yeah, let's shake some of that on here. But this is where we're going to get these like antiviral, antimicrobial herbs, like just from nature. And that's going to really pack a nice punch against any sort of virus that's trying to come in, help clear things out of the body as well. It's really underestimated, but yields a big, really positive result. Raw honey, for one, as you can see here, contains more antioxidants and antibacterial compounds that the immune system loves. It also helps fight allergies. I know that's coming up a lot right now too, as the season is changing. So let's spice it up. Let's throw some of this stuff in everything that we're using. And then I would be remiss not to say that my 5th and final, arguably most important tip would be to show your gut, your digestive system, some love during this time, because 70% of our immune system lives in our digestive tract. So that's kind of like what the foundation of our overall health, where it stems from. That's why that's my focus and my practice, because when people just can't figure out what's going on, we're going to revert back to where everything is kind of stemming from and go after that area. And how we can support the gut is giving it the first 4 tips that I said. We don't want to overbear it with sugar. That's kind of inflammatory. We want to give it these spices, these healing foods, these color, the fiber, the nutrients from our food. So steps 1 through 4, you're golden. And then we can even take it a step further and add in some fermented foods. The gut loves fermentation. It loves that. Those are called probiotics, and maybe you've heard that word so far. And these are things like sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, kombucha. Yogurt has probiotics in it. And some of them, I don't know if you're familiar with using them on a day-to-day basis. It was more so for me weaning into these foods because I didn't know what like natto was, or even kimchi. Honestly, I just had to buy it one day and then figure out what I would do with it. And now I just scoop it and put it on my plate every single day, no matter what I'm really eating. It adds like a nice little crunch, or, you know, we sip on it, whatever that looks like. But it's really important to balance those first 4 steps with adding in a probiotic support for the health of our digestive system, being as it is the house of our immune system. And in that same breath, again, like when we think about sugar, fried foods, overly, you know, saturated oils, these are going to be foods that are inflammatory to the lining of the gut. And again, we are just trying to preserve him there and keep him healthy. So another quick little tip would to be, this is a great time to drink warmer fluids and utilize things like broths and soups and teas. And that's a good place, like a tea, to get in some of those herbs. They make, you know, peppermint teas. I think they make thyme tea. Like you can easily just kind of steep a lot of those benefits in a nice warm liquid. And our body is really going to like this warm liquid right now, especially if we are like fighting off a virus, but also preventatively And we want to just make sure we're getting adequate hydration as well. That's another big treatment, of course, in the hospital setting when we do have a virus, is to get them fluid. So be on your water game. I do the same thing as the protein. I minimum half of my body weight in ounces of water. So I usually have this obnoxious big cup next to me. It's like bigger than my body. And then I just kind of figure out how many of those I have to get through every day. And it just sits on my desk and stares at me until it's gone. But that's a great, good little tip. We like it warm, we like put lemon in it. Again, that's going to be really antiviral, antibacterial. This teas, you'll get those herbs in. So that's a great way to kind of stay healthy, hydrated right now. So let's talk about some ideas of what the heck to cook, because it's been 60 something days of being home and having to make 3 meals over and over and over again. So I will show you how I do it. We got to keep it easy, and we got to keep everybody happy. So we're going to involve everybody. If you'd like, that's easier for you, but I find a higher compliance when we kind of get everybody involved. But basically, to go back on the what can we control thing, we got to have a rough idea, emphasis on the rough part, of what we're having for the week. That's a great place to start, because not only are you going to like know what you're going in for when you go into the grocery store, it's going to help with our budget for groceries. It's going to reduce waste. And honestly, it's going to keep everybody in the know of what we're having, so that you don't have to hear what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what's for breakfast 1,000 times a day. So we like to do theme nights to kind of help you plan that out. So, like you see here, maybe Monday is Italian. So you figure out, what does that look like? And this is where you kind of get everybody involved. Maybe one kid picks a Monday and Tuesday is assigned to somebody else, and they get to go online and look up a recipe or pick what they'd like to have. Again, we're going to see a higher compliance of everybody enjoying the meal together, and not, maybe throwing a little fit, saying, I don't want to have that, and how it goes. So I like theme nights. I like writing it out so everyone can see. I love leftovers, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So don't go crazy. Again, it's a rough idea of what we're going to have. What if we get to the store and that's not there? What could we substitute? Things like that. I love, again, one day is always going to be a leftover day. So we just make a little more than you would. Like if you're going to the store, grab the stuff, and so you don't have to go back every couple of days. But allow for that flexibility, allow for the ability to pivot when we need to. I love Pinterest. That's where I'm going to get most of my ideas from. People are usually like, can you just move in and cook for me? I'm like, I really just go on Pinterest and kind of go, that one, and I print the recipe and I throw it in a crock pot. As you can see here as my last bullet, but we'll go into this one a little more. I live off of using a crock pot. And if I did not have one, I probably wouldn't eat often or enough. This is going to be a lifesaver to always have something ready, regardless of if it's a soup, a chili, just protein sources. I'll kind of show you pictures of what I do in the next couple of slides. That's like a saving grace for those in the house that seem to be always hungry, but also a flexible idea of, oh, we ran out of stuff, or we need to just make something with what we got. At least that's kind of always a static option. I'll show you a little more about that. But my, again, number one rule throughout this entire quarantine has just been to be easy, graceful, and gentle with ourselves, to release expectations, especially when it comes to food. There's so much emotion tied to it, so much pressure. And again, if we scroll on Facebook, we see everybody's great meals and we're like, what the heck, I had chicken nuggets for dinner. Just to kind of let go of all of that. You have my permission, if you needed it, to just do the best that we can during this time. I hope to make it a little easier for you, but we're all just hanging in there at this point. So another tip of mine would be to make, like I said, 1.5 to 2 times of that recipe, so then you can then have it again the next day, later on in the day. Again, with the crock pot, I'm still working on the same thing that I threw in there like probably 2-3 days ago. It's just always on hand for when the day gets ahead of you. And here's my rule always. We're going to keep it really simple. When we're thinking about maintaining health, controlling what we can regarding our food options, I'm looking on your plate for a source of protein. We'll go over what those are, but you can I mean, we'll brainstorm real quick. Chicken, fish, beef, turkey, pork chops, like we know proteins, right? Eggs, vegetarian sources like beans, tempeh, tofu, things like that. Always a protein, always a fiber. Fiber is going to be found in our fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, again, legumes, things like that. That combination is what our body's looking for our gut health to be happy, for our blood sugars to be happy. And then I'm going to be really happy if we get a green thing involved on that plate. So one green vegetable would be awesome. Again, for the same reasons. That's just kind of like my little sneaky way to check all the boxes off. If it looks like this, everything else that's around the plate is fine. You know, like, can we still have mac and cheese? Sure. Can at least we have this foundation, protein, fiber, one green thing. That's what I want you to leave with. And so this is what it actually would look like. So like I said, crock pot. This is where my protein sources are mostly going to come from, because I don't want to be in the kitchen all the time cooking all day or every 4 hours, it feels like. So in a crock pot, I'm just going to dump raw package of chicken breast, chicken thighs, put some seasonings on it. That's where I'm going to spice it up, put a little broth, little water, whatever, to just cook it down a little bit. And I'm going to do that on low for 4 hours. And I honestly will just wake up and usually do that. And that's just going to be there all the time. When it's empty, we'll just do it again. Maybe we'll make a different kind. We'll do yesterday I did like beef chips in there. Chopped up some onion, peppers, and just turn the thing on low and walk away. And then throughout the day, when it's time to eat, we just take out of the crock pot. And when you do the chicken or you do like a pork, beef doesn't really usually do it as well. If you were to do like tips, those don't shred as much, but the chicken and the pork are gonna become almost like a chipotle. You can easily like fork them and get them really shreddable. So it becomes really versatile. You could do quesadillas, you could put that on a salad, you can put it in a wrap, you can just put it on the plate. But it just, again, it's, we make like a chipotle bowl. It's just a versatile option to always have on hand to kind of keep it a little easier. I also love, I mean, crock pot or not, having a soup always, having a chili ready. So yes, it will take an initial 30 minutes out of your week to kind of chop the stuff. You could buy it already chopped, but just, it's honestly, we're just dumping it back in and letting it do its thing. And then you're kind of good for the rest of, you know, for the next 4 or 5 days, and don't have to stress about it. I get a lot of questions about frozen versus fresh when it comes to produce right now, because it's hit or miss on both ends. It seems like some days there's tons of frozen and then some days there's no fresh, and vice versa. But frozen foods, frozen fruits and vegetables are going to be just as great, if not arguably better than fresh options sometimes. They're frozen at the peak of their freshness, so the nutrition quality is going to be the same. That was the concern there. And I just find, again, that they're going to store longer, can probably do a little bit more with them. I like to make stir fries. But when fresh stuff isn't available, frozen is definitely a great backup. We will make, you can see here in this picture, a frittata for like a breakfast prep. And that's just going to be in a circular pan like this. Sometimes use a brownie tin. And I'm going to use like those frozen veggies or use up the rest of the fresh stuff that's kind of going bad. The onions, the mushrooms that are getting a little weird looking, the peppers we're going to start chopping up, things like that, broccoli, spinach, whatever we have in the fridge is all going to go get sauteed, covered with eggs, like a little scramble. Maybe chop up some like turkey sausage, chicken sausage, whatever, throw that in there, bake it in the oven. And now we have like this little cake for a couple of mornings to just slice out of, and there's no questions about what's for breakfast. We'll top it with some great avocado, hot sauce, and have a ball. I'll do the same exact thing in the form of oatmeal. And I gave you some recipes in the resource list that you'll get later, just for quick ways of ingredients of what you would need. Same idea though, that sheet pan, oatmeal, fresh fruit, frozen fruit work even better because they bleed a little bit, which is yummy. Peanut butter, nuts, whatever you want to like throw in this thing, and then you just cut out of it over the week. Doable, right? We got this. So here's my crock pot chicken. I look so professional with this dish. It took me 30 seconds to make, but you guys, you'll look really cool and everyone will be like, wow, and it's delicious. So look, I emptied chicken breast, chicken thighs for just 2 different textures. I threw in a jar of diced, sun-dried tomatoes. Just kidding. Artichoke hearts. I mean, it's just kind of like the little flavor I was going for. Sometimes I'll just do the chicken by itself, again, to get it to be that shreddable Chipotle style where I can use for anything. I'll do buffalo chicken, barbecue. There's just always some sort of protein source ready in the crock pot. And this is an example of one of them that looked a lot prettier than it seemed like it took a lot of time. 30 seconds. Empty all the jars, dump it in, throw some spinach on top, close it down on low, 4 hours. We're roasting all the veggies in the oven at the same time. We're gonna just pull them out, pair them together, usually with the protein that's ready in the crock pot. Pretty simple, one and done. We're not cooking all day. That's what taco night looked like. Again, I had the veggies ready from before. The beef, I think I cooked the beef in that moment, but that was the only sort of cooking I did. That white stuff right there is gonna be that sauerkraut that I'm trying to add to everything. We're getting the veggies there. We're getting it in. It's simple. Just have an idea of what you're gonna have. And then other days it looks like this. So we're gonna keep it really real with you, right? We got some gluten-free chicken nuggets. We have some chickpea mac and cheese pasta, and we got some fiber in the form of cauliflower, which is yellow because of the turmeric spice I put on it. See, I listen to myself, I promise. And we got the green thing. We got some Brussels sprouts. So I'm checking the boxes, even if I look like a 2-year-old in this picture. We're keeping it real. We're doing the best we can. Those are the 3 boxes that I want you to check that I know you totally can do. And I want you to release any other expectation about how anything has to look otherwise. It can look like this and we're still on track. So we're okay. Here's some snack ideas. I know we're just hungry all the time, it feels like, when we're stuck at home. So buy or make your own. It's a lot cheaper. Trail mix with a bunch of nuts, seeds, some dried fruit. So amazing. Protein, fiber, vitamins, all right there. I gave you a recipe that you can have after this for no-bake energy balls. So we're just balling up some oats, peanut butter, seeds, again, some fruit, popping those in, really hit those sugar cravings, keep our blood sugars happy. We're gonna make nice smoothies. Love popping my own popcorn right on the stove top with some coconut oil, dipping some fruit in a peanut butter and almond butter. That's our snack for sure. Just snacking on fruit. I mean, the more the merrier. Guacamole is a great snack, that healthy fat from the avocados. Love it. Making some bean dips, hummus, veggies. We got this. We got options. We have options, and you will have them all take home with you. So I'm giving you my grocery list, quarantine style, and also some of the recipes, because this is what I did. I mean, I'm Pinteresting, guys. I'm not making this stuff off the top of my head. We're trying to keep it easy. I gave you some pantry ingredient meal ideas of like what's left in the pantry, what can we possibly do with it. There's stuff on here for allergy friendly. So if you need, gluten-free, dairy-free to avoid certain things, that's all on there. Instapot is amazing. That's a great resource, an easy way to prep a lot of food. That oatmeal bake that I talked about. We'll talk about some on there, that shelf-stable protein. So protein sources, beans, protein powders, jerkies, canned meat, fish, things like that you can just stock up at the store and always have that protein source to be able to check those boxes off. So I think that was my last slide. Yeah. Let me check the chat. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. I will stop sharing my screen. Oh God, still me. So I can read these, and I'll hang out here for a little bit and see what you got for me. So I use honey in my tea multiple times a day. Raw honey is the white creamy looking one or the golden. Mine is golden, but it will just say raw. Ideally raw, like local organic honey. I've seen like a whiter tint to some before, so that doesn't seem too out of unfamiliar. So that sounds right. You just want it to say raw. There's a lot of local, people that could use our support right now. So ordering from somebody local would be amazing. Oatmeal, high in carbs. I know it's healthy. How many how much can I have per day? I love the energy balls, have a hard time stopping. I feel you. When we think about these foods and when we think about the words like carbs and fat, and there might be, you know, too much in them, they're coming from whole food sources. So yes, that they have these macronutrients attached to them, but no, do they do the same thing that a white carb, like a, you know, a slice of just white bread would do. If that makes sense. The foods that we eat in this form, so oatmeal, peanut butters, nuts and seeds and things like that, these are whole natural foods, again, that our body is looking for. So the effect that they have on the body is going to be different than just putting them with that label of like fat or carb. They're a little more complex than that. They come with fiber. Fiber is going to bind to all the things that it needs to in the body and push all the bad stuff out. So sticking just to whole foods, of course, eventually you can start to think if you're going to eat the whole tray of energy bites, which I know is tempting, maybe not. I guess you could think about portions there. But if your intake is coming from whole foods, your body is going to respond to it, you know, the way that it should, and not turn on this fat storage mode that we tend to put on when we eat a diet that's high in like the white refined things. So we have to think about the sourcing when we think about the macronutrient, the titles that we put onto it, because one doesn't necessarily equal the other. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. Creamy Honey says raw and processed. Awesome. So that's so great. Even when I feel, I don't remember the last time I was sick, but if I were to feel sick, I would go to my raw honey and just eat it out of the jar. It's very antimicrobial, kills a lot of stuff. Keto diet, what do I think of the keto diet? Keto diet is beneficial in the sense that it makes you cut out the crappy food. I think a lot of diets have that in common. I don't think that, I don't love blanket statements for diets because it doesn't take into consideration the person who's doing it. So without knowing, you know, not only people's preferences, but their lifestyle, but also like their health history, it's hard to say how one person would be on it. That's why I really love like genetics and things like that, because I can see into people's genes and see if they're prone to doing well with a high fat diet. The only thing I see keto going wrong with people is that they tend to, for lack of better terms, take advantage of the fact that all they should be eating is really high fat. So their diet looks a lot like butter and bacon and heavy cream, and we kind of lose sight of the nutrition end of things. The keto diet was invented therapeutically in the hospital for those with like seizures and epilepsy, and they're treated with really high concentrated what's called like MCT oil, and we're utilizing, you know, avocado oils, coconuts, nuts and seeds like that. So if the person could actually get enough fat to warrant ketosis, which is the goal of the keto diet, is putting the body into ketosis, which I find the average person has a lot of a hard time getting into. Unless you're in ketosis, you're not really going to benefit from that sort of diet. So I just find some people gaining weight because they're just eating a lot of fat, if that makes sense. So I mean, keep it simple. I love fats. I'm like the biggest fat advocate, but again, coming from the right sources. So I don't want to like put a label on it either, because I don't know what kind of diet I would say that I eat. I just eat healthy fats. I eat my olives, avocados, coconut, you know. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, let me know in the chat. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes and we will send you the quarantine grocery list, the resources and the recipes there, and all my little tips will be on there, but feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. And thanks for hanging out with me on this Thursday in quarantine. I hope you guys, you know, stay safe, stay open and graceful with yourselves, with your family members. We'll get through it. We are a resilient bunch. You guys, kudos to you for jumping on and, you know, being an advocate for yourself and learning more about how you can take control in this situation. So thanks for coming. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.